is so nice to have you on the podcast. Thank you for coming today.
Nice to be here. Thank you, Annabelle, for having me here. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to the conversation. Yeah.
All the way from Sikkim. Before, though, we get into your story around becoming an architect and all the interesting things you've gotten up to, what gets your attention? What do you like to watch or read or listen to?
I move between things a lot. So, I mean, especially work and
Yeah.
and things that I do. Like, I like doing music as well. And of course, there's family. So, I'm all actually moving between things. So, I know what catches my attention. Yeah, I think things in between, in a way, because it's kind of everything feels interconnected.
Mhm.
So, so what am I reading? So I'm reading this book of essays. I recently went to this school of environment and architecture in Bombay, and they
Mhm.
gave me their publication. It's called First Questions, and it's quite interesting to kind of the yeah, some of the essays are very interesting, and it's also about how the school was formed and what kind of pedagogic style or like what kind of pedagogy they're kind of looking into. Yeah, and there was this very interesting essay that I kind of came across, and it was about so before in India, before architecture education was kind of formal, so there was the British kind of came, and then they made this. I mean, they made this institutions where they would kind of um teach like draftsmanship skills, and yeah. So then that kind of like that method, that very orthographic drawing kind of method, and then those European construction methods in a way shaped the architectural education in India in some sense. So anyway, so that's something that I found it pretty interesting. So recently I watched this movie called Rental Family. It's like a have you seen that movie?
No.
Yeah, no. So it's this guy called Brendan Fraser, who's done a comeback after many years. I think he
Yeah.
did that comeback in another movie as well. But then, anyways, it was a very nice, like easy movie. And then listening, I've been listening to this Japanese artist, So his name is Chihei. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but it's just basically just like ambient music. It really
Nice.
calms me down, and it really helps me lower my PP, I guess.
Yeah.
And it helps focus as well, in the work.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something that I've been doing. Yeah.
Awesome. And what do you do that is there a practice you have that helps you brings you some joy or helps you feel more peaceful or like just something that you engage with that's not work, it's not family, it's just something for you?
Mhm.
Do you have anything like that?
Recently, I can think of I was with my wife and I was being silly and I was being stupid, and yeah, I was saying something very embarrassing in a comical way, and the feeling of not being judged,
Yeah.
it's nice. I mean, so yeah, that's something that kind of stuck with me.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that. And yeah, it's so relaxing to have people in your life that you could be ridiculous with. Um
Yeah.
And they can just laugh with you. Yeah. So you shared that you're an architect, trained architect, and you've also founded your own studio, Studio Interweave. But I'm really curious, where did that start for you? Did you know that you wanted to be an architect, or how did you end up in this field? Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I knew very little about architecture when I was in school. I mean, I
Yeah.
knew about it a little bit, but then not to the extent that I mean, would want to go and pursue it. And actually, I was into music for a long time, and I thought I could do music, and I wanted to pursue like career in music. And okay, I mean, it didn't happen, obviously. And somehow,
Never say never. You never know.
never say never, never say never. I mean, I'm still doing music, so so there is a kind of like a full circle to this as well. So I'll get to
Mm,
that. But yeah, after my school, so over here, like in Sikkim, you do get like state quotas to get
mm,
into like these government colleges. So if your marks, you have to be in on merit. So you do get like these quotas. Somehow like my marks was okay in class 12, grade 12, and then I could qualify for these colleges, like these architecture colleges. And so my dad kind of told me, hey, listen, like why don't you try this, like maybe it's good for you. And then I thought about it, and then I thought, okay, why not? And then moreover, that kind of that college was in Bombay. So I
mm.
thought that okay, I'd go to Bombay and then maybe like still like do my music and then maybe slowly kind of move away from architecture and get into that. But yeah, life had other plans for me. So when I went to Bombay, like there was this big thing that happened. I mean, it's something like to do with my mom. Like she didn't really. There was this incident that happened over there, and then which kind of really made us think that do you really? I mean, at least them like think that would you really want to stay in a place like this? Then yeah, we had to talk to the education department over there, and then they said, okay, there's another college in central India where you can go. It's part of the state, like Maharashtra itself. And so that state is very conservative and it's very, it's in the heartland and it's very hot also. First of all, the place itself kind of like was very deadening. And then after the school, like the school where you're supposed to learn like space, like making or placemaking, that itself was very uninspiring. And so, yeah, first 2 years, I really kind of struggled over there. Then I thought I'll take a break. So then I moved to Delhi for a year. Things opened up. So then I met like really good people. There was this particular person, like named Sona. She was, I was studying sociology, and then she was in this university called Jawaharlal Nehru University. So yeah, I mean, she used to tell me a lot of things. She talked about, I mean, like maybe I didn't know enough then. Not maybe, I didn't know enough then about history and about social sciences in that sense. And anyway, so it made all sense like when I met her, and then she was also cool, and she was telling me about hippie movement, anti-machinist, and like LSD and all of that. So it was just so cool. And so yeah, so that kind of is really fascinating. I saw this group of people who were so passionate about making a difference in society, and they were talking about equality and justice, and they were singing. I mean, reading out poems and singing songs, and that's something really moved in me at that point of time, and it made me question what's my scene. What am I doing? Like so, and then at that point of time, I was also getting to know about some like architects who had worked in India or like architects from India. So, like a guy called Laurie Baker, Charles Correa. So I was just, and then I did get some opportunity to visit some buildings in Delhi as well. So that kind of really opened it up that okay, if I do this well, I mean, like I haven't even given a chance. So let me just give it a good shot. Like, let me see how far it'll go. So yeah, then after that, it really turned around for me. Like then once I went back, then I started, yeah, visiting libraries and reading books on architecture and history and stuff. So that
Yeah.
really kind of like pulled me. And then I felt that, okay, this is something that I can do. And I mean, I was just discovering myself, I guess, yeah, at that point of time. So, but then yeah, it worked out.
It worked out. So you kind of got
Yeah.
pushed into architecture because you scored well and you took those opportunities. I've also been to Bombay
I
and
wouldn't say, like, I wouldn't say like, well, like if I had scored well, then I would be going into like medical or engineering. So
okay.
architecture is something that like people didn't want to take.
Okay. But it sounds like you got pushed into it and were like, what am I doing here? Then found inspiration, it sounds like, and got actually really interested in it, I'm still
Yeah.
absolutely convinced you can be the musician of your dreams if you want to. Because I think there's you don't ever have to be forced to do one thing.
No, for sure. Like, in fact, like studying architecture and like it definitely changes the way you look at things. And
Yeah.
then now I kind of view music in a different way than I used to at that point of time. And it makes a lot of sense. Like, yeah, the structure, the harmony, the melody. Like, so all of that, it really makes sense. Like,
So you found
yeah,
music in architecture.
yeah, yeah.
That's so cool.
And yeah.
Yeah. So you shared with me you're in Sikkim now, so and that's where you grew up as well. So what brought you from Delhi to Sikkim? What was that transition?
So I always wanted to come back to Sikkim for sure, but then I did want to also work outside. I did work outside after my graduation, and I was a bit lost actually, like after the school. I didn't know what I wanted to do really, what kind of office did I want to join. So like just the fundamentals kind of like I learned about those stuff in college, but then I really hadn't developed a sense of direction, like or like develop a sense of approach, like what kind of approach would I take towards this profession. So I didn't know, I was kind of lost still. Then I decided to come back because the city was getting too much. Then there was this job that had opened up. It was with UNDP, and it was a very important like thing I felt at that point of time, and it was to do with disaster management. And then I was I was I was applying for this job, like where you for the position of urban planner, where you would kind of be responsible for formulating like a disaster management plan for the city. So that was something very challenging and interesting because uh, I I was interested in urbanism, but not like to that degree. But then anyway, so that I applied for it, and luckily I got it. And then I worked for a few years in that project, and yeah, and actually, like what also happened was in between. So there was this other thing that was happening. So remember this person that I was talking to you about, like this person that I met in Delhi. So we used to have like we used to be in conversations, and then and like me like being naive, I guess at that point of time, I used to think, okay, you want to make a difference, but how do you make a difference? You cannot be outside the system and then make a difference. You have to be in the system to make a difference. Like so, so yeah. Then I jumped at this opportunity, thinking like, oh, I need to be in, like otherwise, then I won't be able to make a difference. So,
I
so
felt the
yeah,
I was gonna say I felt the same way about education that I had to be in it to make a
yeah,
change, and then ended up
yeah.
jumping right out of it, being like, "Nope, it's fine. I'll work from the outside."
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me as well. Yeah, so then I got into it, and yeah, after a few years, and I got inducted into the government service as a assistant urban planner. And yeah, I mean things were cushy. Like over here, I don't know, but like government job is a big deal. Like
Mhm.
it's
It's
you're
stable. Yeah.
exactly. You're secure, like your health is covered, your everything is covered, like your pensions, you have like all the perks, all the benefits and everything. So it is a huge deal like over here, like to have a government job. And it still is even today. And then yeah, but then like what happened over there was kind of yeah, whatever potential I had realized, like I thought, oh, I could do this, I could do that when I was in college. And slowly I was really getting sucked into that whole thing. And then that complacency was kind of like kicking in. And then I was slowly, I mean, to put it like I wanted to change the system, but like the system was changing me. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I was becoming very comfortable and with this salary and this stuff. And then I was like, no, 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 this is not something that I want to do. And I didn't see any growth. And then the things are very, very disheartening, like in these offices. I wish it was much more productive. I wish it was much more rigorous, but then it's not. It's very relaxed. People come in. I used to go to office 10 o'clock in the morning, and guys are like 10 o'clock in the morning, like they're solitaire and Minesweeper and YouTube and I'm like, what's going on? Like you're supposed to be doing like work, like it's so,
Yeah.
yeah. So and then yes, after a point of time that you stop like questioning that also and because you become like this sore thumb and then who is very like oh like you want to work and all that like so anyways so I had to get out of it, so then I got out. I really got out and but then that was very difficult for my parents and it was very difficult for my family to accept that we are leaving this like very secure job and that was like really difficult time for me. Yeah. But I'm so glad I did it, and I'm so happy I made that decision. Anyway, so I'm really I don't know where am I, like I'm jumped like
No, no, I think it's, like, such a brave thing, though, that you made this decision to leave the comfortable job. Not many people do that anywhere in the world.
No, but sorry, you were asking why did I come back, no?
Oh, that's
I
okay. Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
think you'd shared you always planned to come back, right? That
yeah,
you were
yeah.
doing your education, and that was such a good decision even though it was so risky.
Because after that, I mean the growth that followed after that decision, I think is I mean has been very, very rewarding and has been very crucial for me to who I am today. So, and that growth would have never happened, or I would have never been able to go out and explore, and I would never be. I wouldn't say I wouldn't. I would never be, but then like yeah, it would have been very difficult for me to kind of find that kind of rigor and that kind of how do you put it like yeah, I wouldn't be able to kind of be free in that sense to do or to be curious or to pursue things that I really want to pursue. And that's why I think it's one of the best decisions to just to
Mm.
like kind of do the things like see architecture like as a profession also it requires a lot of um thinking and being with it, like being with the craft and then kind of like spending a lot of time and 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 as something like it's of making right so you kind of like have to immerse yourself. I feel like it's I don't know about others but I feel I you really have to immerse yourself in order to kind of um, know what you're doing. And it's also a very, I feel it's a job that has a lot of impact on lives of people, like a direct impact. So you have to be kind of responsible. You have to know what you're doing. And unless you immerse yourself into the subject and into the profession, it's a scary thing to do. Like it's just like just do half baked things and like without understanding. So it's a I feel that it requires that kind of time and then thinking. So, so leaving that job really freed up that space for me. So, yeah,
I think it's so cool though that the government job is perceived as a path of freedom because there's security there, and yet you described it as you end up not really being engaged or focused or really having room to grow, and so it's like a trap. It ends up
yeah,
being kind of a trap there. And also, you mentioned earlier about your friend, but also your own interest in sociology, and just the way you just described architecture made me think about that understanding the way that people live and the way the communities are formed would impact the architecture. And I just never thought of that before, but of course it does. Yeah. You almost have to be, as an architect, like a historian and a sociologist, and you need to understand
yeah,
psychology. And it
yeah,
isn't just the math of how do buildings stay upright, right?
exactly.
Sikkim's a unique spot because you're surrounded by some of the biggest mountains in the world. You're in the foothills, sort of in a, I
Yeah.
think Gangtok is like in a,
Gangtok is on a hill, like
okay,
there's a wider valley. There is a valley, but not as wide as like the Kathmandu Valley.
okay.
So it is a pretty dramatic terrain. Yeah, we live in.
And you get pretty intense monsoon seasons and quite a
Right.
lot of rain just generally. It gets cold, it gets hot, it does everything, right?
Yeah.
So, what are some if you don't mind talking more about, like, the architecture, I'm fascinated in the place that I live. The materials are so important, the size of the windows is important, where things are facing is so important. We have,
Yeah.
very strong winds. We have a whole season, I'm in it right now, that is
Yeah.
just windy every day. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that are shaped like this, shaped like a hoop,
Yeah.
or like a undercase N, so that the wind passes over it. Otherwise, things would be getting knocked down all the time. So
Mm.
we have the wind, but you have the rain. So
Yeah.
what are you trying to build in Sikkim,
Mm.
architecturally? Like, what's the vision there?
Yeah. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I learned in architecture school. So architecture school, the site that we are given as a design problem in the design like studios,
Yeah,
it's flat site. Most of our like design studios, it was based on flat sites. Like there were hardly any contour or like these terrains like that we had to negotiate. And also like it was a very different kind of like climatic zone, like hot and dry. And then you can have like flat roof and like there's no, you don't have to worry about. In any case, like everything is hypothetical in college. So
yeah, yeah,
when you come back to a terrain like Gangtok or like this Himalayas, is like you have to really like. I really struggled, and I really struggled with how to do the roof, the retaining wall. There's so much a problem with like the moisture from the ground. There's moisture in the air,
yes, yeah,
and the way we want to orient the building, like you were talking about, like these passive design like techniques, right?
yeah,
So I mean, of course, we want to orient our house towards the south, but what if the hill is not facing south? What if it's facing like north, right? So how do you kind of deal with that situation? So you have to kind of like really come up with solutions. And
yeah,
also, yeah, the terrain itself, like it's very difficult. You can be very heavy handed, like when you are, if you don't know how to kind of like navigate this terrain, you can be very heavy handed, big cut, and then kind of try to flatten out the land and then do that. But then that doesn't really work over here because you really create this like very unfavorable condition. Like there's a lot of dampness that comes from the back. And then, yeah, it's also not good for the environment. And you disrupt the watershed, like, because each site, I cannot tell you a particular formula or a particular
okay,
way that we address architecture, because each site is different, each site is
yeah,
different, each like requirement is different. So it is very site specific, and even like the brief, like obviously what are you building, like the program, like is it a house, is it like, or even if it's a house, what kind of family, what kind of socioeconomic condition. So a lot of things have to be kind of factored in.
mm,
Yeah, I mean, but we try and create an architecture which is comfortable, which is economical, which addresses all the climate. I mean, all the climate issues, all the terrain issues, all the water issues.
mhm,
So this is like a given. Like I don't think so that any architect should be kind of like shying away from that. These things are there, but then the bigger concerns is around like also how you are approaching the site and how you are approaching the architecture also, in a way, like in the sense like what are you trying to do, what kind of buildings do you want to have, what language should it like be in. And I mean, of course, like in 1992 when I mean, like we've become very globalized basically over the
yeah,
years. Then there, a lot of these materials are coming in, and a lot of this mainstream development is happening everywhere, and they have kind of really changed, like of course the physical landscape also, but also at the same time like the aspirations of people, like what they feel that is progress or what they feel is developed. So that is also kind of changed. And then whereas we've had like shelters over here for ages, and people have kind of learned how to work with whatever you have around, and especially build with materials that you locally find. So for us also, it's like, how do we kind of find that balance? Because of course, like, there is good things the modern world has to offer, but then there are a lot of good things that the old world has to offer as well. So how do you kind of like learn and like be prudent about like or so how do we kind of come somewhere in between
Yeah.
where it's still rooted to the place, and it has, I mean, of course, you're using local materials like for various reasons, right? Like I mean, if you look from a sustainable point of view, like you're supporting local economy, there's less carbon footprint and so on and so forth. But at the same time, it is something that who we are also. There is a regional like rootedness, I think, like it comes with when you're using like a material of the place. And of course, like there are problems with the old materials as well, with the old technology that people used to build with. And then how do you kind of identify that, and how do you refine that, and then how do you accommodate the changing lifestyle, the contemporary lifestyle that people have? Because earlier, like, things used to be very different. Like, it was an agrarian society. We had a different like way of life, and now that has changed. Like, over the years, people have white collar jobs, and like, they don't, yeah, work with the fields, and they want everything compact, and they want attached toilets and like very comfortable modern houses. So and then so for us, okay, it is what it is. These changes are happening, but how do you kind of recontextualize some of the old like stuff to the modern times? So that's been our quest, like in a way, like finding way to kind of grow from inside out, not like to have like the outside swallow us like wholly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
yeah,
though
so
it's
so that,
similar to what you were saying too about like working inside the system or outside the system. And it is like a back and forth, right? Also between like what our ancestors have learned that we should learn too, and then the current context we're in and what does that need
yeah.
and how do you continue to improve on
Yeah.
things?
Like this idea like of like continuity and change, right?
Yeah.
So how continue at the same time, like of course there are going to be changes, but then you got to be judicious of like, or you got to be aware of these changes that are happening. Yeah, so because it shapes us, it shapes our landscape, it shapes our like
Our
psyche.
thinking.
Yeah,
We
you got to.
spend a lot of time in our homes and we raise our families in homes and we it's not a minor thing, right? This
Yeah,
is where we spend so much time and our space affects like you said the way we think and the way we
yeah.
feel and what are you excited about in the design world? Things that like to speaking to some of the change parts, what are some of the changes that you want to see happen?
Yeah, in terms of design, I mean, it's a continual process. I don't have like definitive answers that I want to see it like that. But I mean,
Yeah.
like, we're definitely working towards refining the craft itself, the refining some of the old technologies, construction technologies that exist, and how do we kind of improve on it. So it's a constant evolution. Yeah, it's a lot of it experimentation, a lot of it is prototyping. I'm just talking in terms of technology and materials, but then also in terms of design, like earlier I was telling you about this particular essay that I read, right? So I've started to think now that the way I think of architecture has been shaped in some ways by my formal training in architecture. I mean, not in some ways, in a lot of ways, it's been shaped by the formal training that I've had. And the essay in that essay, what was interesting was like how did uh, people like kind of build before the architecture profession existed, and then they still had beautiful spaces, they still had a lot of dignified kind of like spaces, and so how do you, like, for me, I want to explore that, like, how do you kind of I don't think so I can get rid of the formal like thinking and formal training, but then I want to get into that space where I want to be able to kind of like conceive of space. I want to unlearn probably. Like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I do think that's a path of mastery of something, of like you learn. Well, I think back to like artists, painters, for example, who they would study the great artists before them and they would copy their style completely. But then as
Yeah,
they grew in their skill set, they moved and started to develop their own things and moved
yeah,
very far away from from what they copied, and I think that's a normal process, and it can feel like unlearning, or it can feel
yeah,
like, but once enough of, like, the technical side of things, you can start
yeah,
to leave that more in the background and focus more on
yeah,
thinking in new ways because you're enough to be able to think in new
yeah.
ways. Yeah.
And also another thing that I forgot, like, so what kind of change? I wanna probably like work more with communities. So see, like architecture has always been this profession where you work for a certain like a set of like people with certain income bracket,
Yeah.
and and as you know, like in India, our socioeconomic conditions are not that great actually, and there's a majority of people who might benefit a lot from design and architecture, I feel. And but we don't get that opportunities often. So I'm also looking for opportunities like that where I'm more useful in that sense. Like yeah, so I don't know when that is going to happen, but then I would want to like work more towards that.
I mean, that fits too with your interest in sustainable types of
Yeah.
architecture and making that affordable for people. Do you see affordability showing up in like a more communal space as opposed to like
Mm,
single home, which does tend to be more expensive, right? Is that some of where your
yeah.
thinking's going or
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I mean, you put it nicely. Yeah. Yeah. And more like communal spaces affordably. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Is there a belief or assumption that you used to have about architecture and design that now that more is been totally changed and it's like a surprising, no, I don't think that's true anymore.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like this, I think this book, like Ayn Rand, like Fountainhead, it really like so this is like a very influential book, right? Like it's I think like a lot of architects find it like want to be a Howard Rourke like in the book. So but I feel yeah, that's very egotistical and like obviously when you're growing up and then you when you hear I mean when you read that book and then you kind of see what Howard Rourke is doing, is fighting for the design and he's going and then like blowing up his building because the client didn't like agree to his design and things like that. So you feel like, oh wow, like that's really like okay and in some level, okay, fine. Like it's nice to be so convinced about yourself and convinced about the design. But then I think that is so arrogant. I feel that is so egotistical, like thing to do, and to think that you are right all the time. So, and in my experience, like I've, yeah, I mean, I've come to realize like you're right, not right all the time. In fact, you're don't be too sure of yourself, like
Yeah. Yeah.
so like, um, yeah,
Like her philosophy is kind of, it's very bad.
yeah,
And very fascist actually.
yeah. I mean, like now, yeah, for sure. Like
Now. Yeah.
at that point of time, it's so
Because
oh,
there's passion in, she's very convincing, yeah, and she's a total sociopath. But it doesn't
exactly.
mean, like, her book still affected me in a good way ultimately, because it made me really, I'm now a lot more cautious if I read a
Yeah,
book or watch something where the person's very convincing, I
yeah.
immediately start to question it now, and that's thanks to her, I guess. Yeah.
No, I mean like in architecture for sure. This particular example popped up, but then just in life, like I feel like sometimes when you at least like that's what I've kind of experienced. When you gain like new knowledge, I think, and because you want to, I mean, and say like it has a profound kind of like impact on you, and then you really think that okay, that's something that you it resonates with you. So in order to kind of like reinforce that in you, you tend to talk about it a lot. And then so I was so kind of like angry also at the world. I'm just sharing like, so you tend to become, I think, like preachy, like you go and talk to people about it, and then you say, oh, like this is not how it should be. Like I went through that phase a little bit, and then like this is not like you shouldn't be eating this, or you shouldn't be doing that, and you shouldn't be like whatever, like. And then it hit me maybe after a year or so that what am I? I'm turning into a fanatic. Like I'm turning into a like extremist. Like I'm like what am I becoming like? And then I really had to kind of like
Yeah.
center myself.
Yeah.
So
I think that that's part of the learning journey, like when you little bit, you
yeah,
can become very, like, enchanted by the little bit of knowledge that you have, and you just want everybody to know it. But then when you learn more, you're like, "Well, actually," and you get more balance and moderation. So when I see someone, not always, but often if I see someone speaking, like, very judgmentally and passionately, I think,
yeah,
"They're just starting to learn about this." Like, that's
yeah,
an indication that it's an early stage of knowledge, that
yeah.
that excitement, like atoms just, like, bouncing off of each other. What are you most excited about that is coming up for you or that you're currently working on?
Yeah, there are a couple of projects that I'm excited about. So like I was telling you about design and build, right? So we're doing this couple of houses close by, and then we have a in-house construction team. And the reason why we did that is also because so people have gotten used to making the modern buildings, and
Mhm.
they've kind of forgotten how to work with like local materials in a lot of
Mhm.
ways, and that skills are kind of disappearing. And also like when we make drawings, it's very detailed and it's very difficult to kind of interpret that on site, and then because of that quality is always affected. And buildings with natural material, if things are not done diligently, it'll perform poorly.
Yeah,
So we don't
yeah,
want that also. So we want quality in the work that we do. So that's the
yeah.
reason we have these why we have the construction team, and then we work very closely with them, and we have trained like people over a period of time. They work with us, so they know how to read drawings. So so
That's
that's
really
something that,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, that's something that's really exciting. Like we're doing a couple of I mean like houses again, like close by. There's another project that I was excited, but it's on hold at the moment. It's in Arunachal. So it's this old cluster of like buildings, like it's in a village. It's in a place called Chuk Valley, and people have abandoned their old like stone and timber houses and moved into this new modern RCC reinforced concrete buildings. And they've just abandoned it, and then there are this a lot of these tourists who are coming over there,
Yeah.
and they are like staying in this modern RCC, whereas that these houses like up there just lying vacant and like so. So we are collaborating with WWF on this. They are part of the conservation team, and they have people over there. So we're working with them to kind of like turn these abandoned houses into community homestays where people can make some livelihood over there.
Cool.
So yeah, so that's something that is exciting. Like
Yeah.
because a lot of people look up to Gangtok and think that that's progress, and we like owning this tall building has become like a status symbol. I've got 5-story house, like so yeah, it's crazy. So
Mhm.
they say, like over here we also feel that you need to build light. So one is because of earthquake, another because of geology. But building light makes sense because like they say, like buildings, it's not the earthquake that kills people, it's the buildings. So if you make your buildings light, and if it's made out of timber, say like there's this particular technology called ikra over here, where we weave bamboo and then make like infills of the walls. So if you have like houses like that, which can very well resist the forces, But worst comes to worst, even if it collapses, it won't kill you.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Bamboo isn't gonna smash and break bone.
Yeah.
And bamboo is, like, so sustainable and, like, how quickly you can regrow and
Exactly.
replenish, like, it's unending.
And so this even in India, like there's a lot of these like you can see the effects of climate change already right now,
Mhm.
and the heat waves, the erratic like storms and cyclones and stuff like that. So I was thinking about it, like say like the Earth's temperature goes up by whatever 2 degrees or 3 degrees, and there's going to be a lot of heat wave in India, and then people won't be it'll be very difficult to kind of survive in that kind of like condition, especially in the mainland. And in the Himalayas, because of its altitude, it's still going to be okay. And things are going to shift. Like the crops are going to shift. People are gonna move. In fact, like people have already started by buying properties and moving up this side. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm thinking like in future, what is this region going to look like? How are we going to accommodate if there is a mass migration? If the climate, if the weather patterns shift, like happen, this heat waves and all happens.
Yes.
How is the situation going to be? Like, how are we going to accommodate that many people in this limited area?
Mhm.
So there's going to be a lot of potential for conflicts and things, and then also like the ecosystem and everything. So anyway,
Yeah.
like it worried me, like
It
thinking about this.
I do think it's worrying, and I think human beings, one of our greatest strengths, greatest weakness, both, is our ability to adapt very, very quickly, and manipulate our environment. And out here, people, it's just normal to have a drain on your house that's catching water, or to have your roof catch water and filter it through into a container that you can then use for growing vegetables, for example. And just like you said earlier, like, it's very dependent on the context and what's needed. But I think the hopeful lens is thinking about climate resiliency. One last question here. Imagining that there's someone maybe like yourself when you were younger, or just someone who's interested in design, architecture, sustainable design, starting out. Do you have any advice that you would want to share with them?
Yeah, I would say go for it. Like it's very, very fulfilling. It's very rewarding. Maybe not in terms of money, and I don't know about that, but then like, but just like understanding life, because architecture is not just about buildings. It's much more than that, I think. It's very much about arts and humanities and ecology and science and yeah, philosophy and so much. Like it's a lot of it
Yeah.
you kind of like get to understand. And so it is a really, in a way, it kind of really shapes our way of thinking, I think, or looking at things. So yeah, I would say definitely go for it, and
Mhm.
and you have to work.
It's hard work.
It's a lot of
I
hard work. Yeah.
I think good things do tend to be hard work. I mean, even just the way you were describing, like, the government job of, like, watching YouTube videos, that's maybe harder because you go home and you maybe don't feel like you did anything. But when you're doing something that's
Yeah.
meaningful and takes some hard work, it's hard, but it can maybe feel better. Like, life can be a bit easier because you feel a little bit like, "Okay, I did something good today," and that's rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah, you can sleep peacefully, like yeah.
Exactly. I definitely want to shout out Studio Interweave, and I'll link that in the show notes. But are there other people or organizations that you would like to promote and just have people check out?
Yeah. There's this organization called Manch. They are from Sikkim. They are working in a political space. It's a platform for critical thinkers and who are not scared of questioning the government and holding them accountable. Have you heard of a place called Auroville?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of my growth has happened over there as well. Yeah, I would definitely I would recommend visiting once if possible, or at least looking into it. It's
Mm.
something, a experimental kind of township, but then it's based on yeah, principles which are very, in my opinion, it's kind of liberal, and then in a way it accounts for whole of humanity, believes in human unity. A couple of local organizations also are doing good work. There's this organization called Confluence Collective. They are an art collective, especially visual medium. I mean, in the sense to do with photography. There are a bunch of photographers who came together. They're
Cool.
also into research. They're archiving a lot of stuff from the history as well. And then also doing a lot of workshops and exhibitions, kind of introducing art to a larger population. Well, I think that's it. That's about it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing parts of your story with me. I was fascinated. I think what you're doing is so important and interesting. And it was really delightful to meet you.
Thank you, Annabelle. It was really nice talking to you. Towards the end, I'm so comfortable. I want to talk more.
I know
It's
we should talk more. I definitely think if you want to, I would love to talk more. If you've enjoyed today's discussion, I invite you to share this episode and subscribe to Able Pathways podcast on your favorite platform. Your support helps us to share these meaningful conversations with more people. Have thoughts about this episode or suggestions for future guests? We would love to hear from you. Leave us a comment or email us at hello@ablepathways.com. Until next time, I'm Annabelle, reminding you that there are infinite pathways to growth. May you travel yours with curiosity and courage.